Here we go. So I'm going to show the process of coming up with ideas for this sci-fi door. Before I draw anything, the first thing I'm going to do is start to get some reference, and this is something that you guys should get used to. Reference gathering is really important because likely you don't have a perfect idea of what everything looks like from memory. If you do, that would be incredible. But you're going to only have kind of a vague idea of some things. Some things are just going to be completely a mystery to you. And if we're coming up with ideas that are a little bit more far-fetched, then we're going to need to put together many different pieces. So I'm making a folder on my desktop just called SciFi Door. Here it is, empty. And I'll just drag things from an image search in here as they occur to me and might be useful. So I've got a few tabs open right now just for an example. The first thing is you could just type in exactly what you're trying to create, but I recommend that you not do that most of the time because that makes creativity really derivative and heavily dependent on Google image searching, which is not very fun. And also it sort of it hamstrings you in the sense that if the thing has never been designed before or in that particular way, you're not going to find very good resources. But as you can see, we've got a lot of really, really good classic sci-fi doors here. It's not a bad way to gather your initial reference, but you should probably have the goal of changing something or just using it for broad inspiration. For instance, if I grab this one, this might give me the idea to do a wider double door which has sort of like beveled angles to it and a bunch of paneling. So let's grab that one. Just say, that's fine. That's something that could help me. Or this sort of thing, where it's sort of square with beveled corners and like cross beams of metal. So that's a pretty good idea. But we don't want to just copy exactly what we're seeing here because that would not be a very creative way to work. And well, why didn't we just hire that person instead? So I'm just going to look through here very briefly to see if anything jumps out at me as being a particularly good idea. We could do something with like metal interlocking teeth like this. This image is not very good, but that doesn't matter. It's just for inspiration. So I'll just throw it into my folder. Here's like a what looks like a sliding door beveled with kind of a triangular hole. I kind of like that idea, so I'll throw this in. And also I saw this one that has sort of an asymmetrical cut across it. Let's grab that as well. Okay, so some other searches that I've got open. Industrial door. Borrowing from actual real things is probably one of the best things that you can do. Oftentimes you're not going to get a sufficient look or design for something like this, but you're going to get real details that mechanically work in reality that might be inspiring enough for you to use somehow. So looking around here, something you might notice about industrial doors is that they often have these sort of beams or panels kind of going across either in an X or across in a grid. And some of that is because doors need structural support. And so that idea of structural support could be something that you end up using in your sci-fi door. Also, we can see somehow maybe how they're like little kick bars on the doors or windows or knobs, how big the hinges are. Sometimes a lot of these are digital for some reason. These are some rolling doors. I hadn't thought about designing a rolling door for the sci-fi door, but I could. If I wanted to, I could grab some of that. Some of these have nice, degraded details and weathering. Some of the details like this might be inspiring, something that you could use. Okay, so who knows? We have to think about lots of different terms to search up. Another one that I did was just SciFi Shapes. There are oftentimes these sort of themes and motifs in certain genres. And so you might be able to find just basic shapes. And I love this sheet. This is great. I could see many of these working for different reasons. So let's just grab that to take a look at. And then there's all these like glowing panels and displays and things, which are pretty classic. Like this could be really cool. I don't know if I'd have some displays on my door, but I could. So let's throw it in there. Some of these more glyph-like things could help. Toss some of those in. Some of these are way out there, like these shapes look like big control panels or spaceships or buildings. Not everything's going to work for my purposes, but some of this is pretty neat. Let's see. Can you guys think of another term that I might search for that could be helpful? No? Nobody?
Metal panels.
Metal panels, sure. let's see what we get for metal panels. So we get like corrugated roof panels, we get like some wall paneling, stuff like that, different materials here which might give us some inspiration to say like, oh yeah, we should throw bolts on there. Here's some exterior paneling on a building. So somewhere here, and we don't really know where, we might get some inspiration. Like this is lattice work, which is a little bit retro, but maybe we want some, yeah, like this almost looks less retro and more futury. I'm going to grab that because that has an interesting sort of take to it. There's also something like this where we could have grid work inside of our door material. We could also be drawing a frame. Like it doesn't just have to be a door, it could be a door and a frame. It could be part of a wall. Here's a good one. Hex grid metal pattern. And here's a few different metal die cut patterns. I'm going to grab this one because that seems pretty good. This is also interesting, though I think it's a little too intricate. Okay. What about like airlocks? Airlocks are a real thing, right? They exist on like planes and space shuttles and submarines. Airlock door. Let's do door. Airlock door. Airlock door. So here we go. Here's a real airlock door, probably on a ship or something. So if we want to design something like this, even if it is sci-fi, there may be some manual operation of this thing, like this turning mechanism which opens up these bolts, which is sealing the thing. So I'm going to grab that. Here's someone's like spaceship idea of an airlock, and that could be pretty cool. This one's got like some caution things and locking mechanisms, probably a little bit too intricate for me to draw. Here's an interesting sort of like avocado shaped one for some reason. Let's see what else we got. This is an abandoned bunker. That's cool. Here's a really thick one from a nuclear plant. Wow. This one's got what appears to be like a round profile, but then a square door built into it, which is a kind of interesting concept. So I'm going to throw that in here as well. So let's look like, how about airplane, what do we call those doors? Let's just try airplane door. See what do we get. I think there's a better name for that. But this sort of thing is interesting. This kind of curvature along with all of these panels and grips gives me some good ideas. Like we might design a commercial flight spaceship door or something like that. Let's try space shuttle doors. Space shuttle door. Space shuttle door. Okay. So we're getting a lot of the big cargo door, but this, wow, that appears to be a space shuttle door, but it's got a lot more exposed components than I expected it to, which I guess makes sense because they're capable of understanding all of that stuff. Here's a more simplified just hatch or something. Interesting. So lots of different things that we could do. We could even just talk about regular old materials, like how about 3D printed machine. Just see what we get from that. So we could use this as a material reference. Maybe we are using all plastic materials or something. Or there could be certain textures on here, like the actual residual printing textures we could use somehow. I'm not going to draw in that much detail, but it's just another concept that you could figure out. We might search for like metal. So let's say, what is the surface of a space shuttle? Made of like ceramic? Space shuttle surface. Yeah, like there's all these little ceramic tiles because they have to heat up on re-entry. This is probably not going to help me in this case, but it's a really interesting detail, and visually it looks pretty cool too. I might want to just borrow from actual real-world objects, like how about solar panels? Panel. So a solar panel has a real sci-fi kind of look to it just by itself. So I might want to get some reference to that just so I can see the kind of silvery metal with this bluish reflective surface or semi-reflective surface, something like this. There could be a solar panel just on my door for some reason. I don't know. Or just the look is cool. How about computer consoles? There could be some interface on that door. I might want to have some of this weird matrixy stuff, or some retro-inspired, computers like this, just like a monitor, honking monitor sitting in the side of the door. Control panels and surfaces. These are pretty old, but any one of them could do the trick. So there we go. And if you know of existing like sci-fi franchises, you might use something like that. So let's do Star Trek panels, like this stuff. So we could just grab something like that, those cool kind of designs, throw them in there. Let's see if there's any. This one's got some button interfaces. It'll be fine. Okay, you guys get the idea? Just get all the inspiring stuff that you might potentially use somehow, so that you don't have to constantly search around for it while you're trying to do your designs. You should probably think just a little bit before you do this process of what kind of end result you're going to be looking for. The prompt, right, that you guys have is high fantasy key, but there's lots of different directions we could take that in. All I've got is a sci-fi door, but is this on a ship? Hey, there we go. Is this on a ship? Right? Is this for a station? Is it for a house? Right? How nice should it be? Maybe this is for like an indoor living space. Maybe this is something for a maintenance area. Who knows? You have to kind of narrow it down a little bit before you can adequately do your research at all. Okay? But now I've got this big folder full of stuff. Sometimes I'll just open it up immediately. Sometimes I'll turn on the icon view so I can just see quickly what it is I'm going to refer to. Keep that open on the side, and then occasionally open up one of these to take a look at it and say, okay, I want to add some component like that. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's do some sketches then. See how big my pencil is right now. It's a little bit big. I'm going to shrink it just a little. There we go. Okay, so let's do some basic sketching. One of the first things I'll probably open up is the shapes that I grabbed, these ones, and keep visible some of the other things, because I just need to know like what shape is this aperture at all that I'm going to walk through. And for sci-fi, there are some nice standbys, like having just beveled edges in hard corners like this. So this sort of thing. And we could like offset the opening somehow like that if we wanted to. We could make it 3-panel instead of 2. So I could have like something like this, and then this, let's say we'll cut this panel over here too. So we could have it like this one goes up, this one goes over, this one goes over, this one goes down. This is for like no reason at all. This would be completely frivolous, but in your first design passes, be frivolous, it's fine. Let's have a more circular opening like this. And in this case, we'll have it so that it slides into the wall, but I want to have like some openings. So I'll put a beveled edge, tall shape like that for the doorway opening, and then let's like put a panel centered here, and I'll have some stuff on it, some blinky stuff. It doesn't really look very industrial, and so I would look at some of my references and say, okay, well, what can I do to make that look a little bit more believable? It's like I could break it into panels, like this one here, or we could put some, solar stuff on there, or I could do some cross beams like this one. Let's do some cross beams. Throw that in there. So for this one, let's say I'm going to put one across here, like that. And I'll just have it chop off like this. We'll have it go to a triangular shape in the top like that. And then maybe our window needs to mimic that. So it needs a wider base down here and a thinner top like this. And maybe our door frame even should do that. You could have it round on the bottom still, something like that. At least it's looking sufficiently sci-fi compared to what I had before. Okay, I'll leave this one flat on the ground like that. And then there's like sometimes little markings and like serial numbers and stuff, tiny little lights and panels, and then it starts to look a lot more sci-fi. So let's move on to another one. Let's try, I liked that kind of bent doorway that was like as a part of a fuselage or something. It's going to be hard to draw because at this weird angle, but just chop up a couple panels there, and we could say maybe there's only a tiny opening in the side and some big handle. Put some panels on there, maybe recess it slightly, something like that. And in this case, I'd probably want to do something around it also to indicate that it's like a part of a larger structure, but I don't really know what, so that's just an idea. Let's try another. Looking at my reference, I liked this one where it was a round opening with a square doorway, so that's pretty cool. Let's try that. So here's my round opening, and chop off a little at the bottom, a little at the top. We could offset it quite a bit and have the door over in one side and have even like a computer console over on the opposite side, like this. Chop that up. What's on the computer console? I don't know. Maybe we're stepping into a reactor. Maybe we're going from customs into the main concourse of like a space station or something like that. Who knows? But it's a neat idea, and it could be worthy of exploration. And then I could make this a little bit more sci-fi, maybe by beveling these edges a little bit. And then figure about what's the actual door going to be. This one might be a very simple door because it's all kind of controlled remotely. So we have a big window to look through, but then like 3 panels, just like this. Probably want to actually make that window a bit smaller so that I can actually tell the difference between a panel and a window. So it could be something like that, and it has like no openings or anything on it whatsoever because it just slides, I don't know, this way, or maybe behind the computer stuff, and somebody stands here and operates it for you. So there's an idea. Let's see what else. I want to take a look at those basic shapes again because they were pretty cool. Okay, basic shapes, a lot of hexagons, double hexagons and then built up, triangular and curved triangular, or square and curved square shapes. Those are all pretty good basic concepts. And there was one, ooh, I like this one. It's a elongated hexagon. So it goes like this. For some reason. I like this idea. Now here's the practical problem with this one. If you've got this happening on your floor, how is it that we're walking through this like it's a doorway, right? In this situation up here where it's this big round shape, there's sort of like a catwalk here with like a mesh, and you could see down to like the bottom of this area down here. But would we do the same thing here? Like draw right across there? Or do we need some other explanation for this doorway? Like this is a doorway that a spaceship flies through, not a doorway that you walk through, right? Or we could start messing with the proportions of this and say that this is actually our door and this is nothing, right? So we've got like this peaked roof on this door that we could walk through now. We could put it all the way down here, I guess, if we wanted to. Or even if we just did that a little bit, where there's just this slight raise for some reason, and then it goes up, but most of it is flat in the middle. Any of those things would work properly. I kind of like this though, and I want to put like teeth on the door closing area. Let's mimic the shape here. I'm going to go like that, and then I'll go far this way and all the way that way. So now I've got this kind of pattern for this almost interlock of sides that this door could have. You might want to think about what are some functional bits we could have. I do have this concept. So there's a bunch of recessed pieces and sliced out like little design things. So we could just draw lines all over this. But there's also like a little maintenance panel. So we could put like a little maintenance panel right here, which would be one thing. We could mimic the shape of the teeth with like a little design element. We could put some recessed panels in here. Let's just do that for some reason. Industrial design and sci-fi design is always a little bit strange. There doesn't seem to be a reason for a lot of this stuff, but if it's fancy, you've probably done your job right. Okay, stuff like that. And we could decorate this other side the same way, but since it's just a concept, let's not even bother. They did have a pretty substantial door frame in that picture though, which is pretty cool. So we could establish something like that, and it can have its own like little recesses and things, which we would have to explore more fully once we had a really good idea. Okay. Your whole first design phase is basically like this, just playing around, trying to figure out what it is that you want to do, what ideas gravitate towards your preferred illustration at the end, and just kind of seeing how practical it is to work with these different concepts that you have. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah? So to be clear, I don't want you turning in this kind of stuff that I'm doing right now. This is what you would do first. Okay? Play. Play a lot. Sketch some things. See if it's going to work at all. See if you like the idea at all. Let's do like a triangular opening here. And then what? If I divide this in half, then I've got to divide a window in half. That would be really weird. We'll say this one raises up. Maybe we can even see the teeth poking through in the bottom. Or actually, here's a good one. We'll have it split right about here, and we can see the teeth of the thing. And then we've got a little panel that can slide down while another one slides up. It almost makes it look like an angry cyclops or something. It's kind of cool. Put some panels on the side, like that. And then there's probably some serial numbers written somewhere, and little doodles and illustrations and stuff like that. And who knows what. Okay. All right, so you do this for a while. You start to get ideas that you like. Okay, let's pick, well, you guys pick. Which one of these basic ideas do you like the most? Let's just number them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go for it.
3.
3.
Yeah, 3.
3. Cool. So let's take that. We're going to copy it. Paste it. Move it. And I'm just going to put a few right next to each other. And then I'm going to fade that out a lot so that I can draw over the top of them. I'm also, I think, going to make them a bit bigger so that they're easier to deal with. And I can put more detail. So we're going to do that. And I'm going to turn down the opacity a lot. Okay. And then draw right over the top of it. So we've got this long, thin kind of doorway with some asymmetric shapes on it. So first thing I would do then is try to make these different now. Using the shapes that I had before, we could say, okay, one of them could be hard-edged like this. And let's even make this one have one chopped off corner, one not chopped off corner. We could make it pill shaped. Gotta make that flatter. There we go. Pill shaped like this. That kind of softens it a bit, makes it seem a little bit more like traditional commercial design for aircraft, but that's okay. Maybe that helps somehow. What else could we do? We could actually have both sides more severely chamfered like this. And we could play with the proportions as well. So instead of being quite so tall and skinny, we could have it being slightly fatter or slightly shorter or something like that, or even like extra panels that come out from the sides of the thing for some reason. So let's do that. I'm going to have two symmetrical panels that come out from the side, and I will shorten this side, let's say. Shorten that side, and I'll leave this one just the same, I think. Which kind of makes a cool shape. And so we'll start exploring like that. Like, what elements of this do we like? Maybe we could try making like a semicircular cut on one of these things instead of a chamfer. Maybe we could try finding some of the different shapes on that brainstorm sheet or the metal paneling that I found. Like this or something. Maybe we want to put in some mechanics like this one, or portholes. Maybe something like this, right? We just start playing more and more and more, adding these details and kind of building it up into something that we like. This one I hate. I don't like that, so I don't want to do that. But it was just a thing to throw out there. I do kind of like, I almost accidentally made this round like that, but I do want to explore that. Like, what if it was rounder like this for some reason? It kind of has an interest to it. More severely flat top, and like, let's make it more severely on the bottom. It has an interesting kind of flavor to it, I feel like. I'm also going to erase out a bit more of the pre-drawn stuff in here, just because it's distracting me. Just a little bit. I feel like it worked best on this last one. Okay, and then we could start filling in some of those extra details. So on this one over here, I'm feeling like, how about a rectangular window? Right, semi-rectangular window. This one, for some reason, I want to go for a round one. Something like that. This one kind of works nicely with that existing window, but this one works best with that one, I think. This tall, thin one. Like that. This one I'm still not sure. Could be this entire thing. So we're starting to get some shape differences there. Let's see, what about a mechanism? If we're going to have some sort of opening mechanism, I think it would be on this side here. And let's say that it's like a recessed panel. I'll give it a, sorry, I'll give another panel right next to it that might have like indications and warnings written on it or something, or computer parts. But that this part, let's give it like a pull kind of thing, in case of emergency or whatever. Like it's a flight door or something. This one here, probably the same sort of thing, but it would be a little bit fatter and shorter to kind of mimic the design. On this one, I'm not even going to put a companion panel, I think. This one, I'll have it span the entire area, kind of like my original thought, like this. And we'll make the emergency pull like right here. And maybe there's just a cavity where that thing will get flipped over to this side. For this one, I don't really know yet. In one of these cavities on either side, I could do that. Make this one a little bit more vertical. Maybe it's a, I don't know, a slide. So something that you like put your hand in and you just slide it down. So there might be like some indication that this is the direction you slide the thing in, like a stop down here. Something like that. Okay, so without really getting into very many details yet, I'm just kind of playing around with shapes and sizes and proportions And you can spend as much time as you want on this step, because it's going to influence really the design impression that you're going to give to the people who look at the thing, irregardless of the details, right? So for instance, on this example that we just pulled offline, the basic shapes here, this triangle, the centered line, these diagonal lines, this big kind of beveled box, are going to give us the primary impression. But if we change the details around, that primary impression is still going to remain. Okay, so you don't need to be drawing in like little metal panels and bolts and things or serial codes too early. You should really try to stick with this stage as long as possible. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see, should I flesh this out just a little bit more and then we can pick another? Or do you guys have any questions? No questions? Cool. Okay, I'm going to flesh this out just a tiny bit more. Let's say, how would this work? Circular, kind of like that. That's silly. I don't like it. Let's go straight across, like that. Go all the way down. It's like a person. Yeah, I don't like that either. So this may suggest that because I did that design, I need to have a more triangular window now, which is fine. Just kind of a unpleasant surprise when I accidentally make like a human figure. So now our window here, right, so it's going to fit kind of in there. We'll come across here like that. Little Superman symbol in there, but that's all right. Yeah.
So for the assignment, you want us to draw 12 little like thumbnails for your windows, and then next week, you want us to pick like pick one of them and do like a rough drawing of it?
No, I want 12 rough drawings. Okay, so this would be like stage 2, right? So stage 1 was these things. This is crazy ideas that may not work at all, right?
So stage 1 is kind of like doing sketches.
This is stage 2, right here, which is playing with proportions and shapes. Stage 3 is what I want you to actually turn in. That would be take one of these, or take 12 of these, and draw them nicely, however you're capable of. Does that answer the question? I know I haven't gotten there yet.
So, but I'm talking about the assignment. Do you want me to give you like each of the stages, stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3?
I only need you to turn in this last one. Finished drawings. 12 finished drawings.
So the first 2 stages, those are just for me then?
Right. If you want to show us, that's great. That'll help us understand your thought process. We just want this.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right, let's see. In the interest of actually doing that, let's try to finish one of these up at least. And by the way, by finished drawings, I just mean tidy. You're not going to have to do like really, really nice looking drawings or anything. I know some of you guys are newer to the idea of like doing that at all. So I'm not going to be cruel or anything, but I kind of like this last one in this row. So I'm going to mess around just a little bit more to clean up the design portion of this. And then we'll try to do a nice drawing of it if we can. What do I do with this side though? Let's chop it off. I don't want to do 2 of those. I just want to do one side. So we'll have this. Does it feel too empty with that gone? So I could do this. Oh, come on, eraser. That's interesting. Now I feel like I should have this side though. So I've got a kind of diagonal door shape now. That's kind of cool. I also feel like I should move this panel upward to be more in the space where like a person might actually use it. Okay. And then we would have to think about like some of the details that we're going to include across here. I actually want to, let's make like a bar across there, like that. This window no longer works because of what I've just been doing. Do that a little bit more. Let's see, what should this window be now? How about a tall, thin window on this side? Do like that. It's like you could see through. This is almost like an industrial door now. Okay, so that's fine. And then just to give it a little bit of something extra, we'll give it a second layer of like supporting metal in these inset panels and some little screws and things in there. Some of them are not visible, some of them are visible. So something like that would probably be okay. Okay. So assuming that this is where I've ended up, I want to take my design that I like, right, and I want to try to draw it neatly instead of crazy. Okay. So I've got it on a new layer. I'm going to make it even bigger. Let's get rid of my other preliminary pass stuff. I'm going to turn the opacity down so that I can draw over the top of it if I want to. And then I'm going to combine it with a fresh layer. So now I've got a faded version of this that I can draw right on top of. And this time I would try to draw more carefully and more thoughtfully than I have been. Okay, I'm going to slow down a little bit and think, where exactly do I want all these proportions to go? And I should probably erase out even a bit more, just so it's going to look neater in the end. Okay. So let's think about this. The vertical lines are going to be okay, right? There and there. That's going to be fine. Do I like this size of door, or does it need to be taller? I think that's probably fine also. But now I want to kind of standardize the bevels. So if that's a bevel there, it needs to be about the same size here, right about there. And then if those are the size of bevels there, when I have this panel, I'd like it to come out the same amount, right about to there. Try to keep a nice vertical line, if I can. And then the same kind of angle here. Okay. But what I just did is accidentally hook that up to this corner, which was formerly going to be cut off. I could actually connect those. Let's try that. Connect it all the way up like that. Okay. This stage, really, we shouldn't do quite as much experimentation, but you may find that once you get everything nice and straight, that some things just kind of pop into place, and that's all right. Okay. Now this one I had a really big one. I'm going to see if I can copy this diagonal over there to get the same shape. Let's see. So we put it right there. It's saying that that's where it should sit in order to do that same shape and size. So that's fine. Go ahead. I'm going to shrink this a little bit. So cleaning up as I go. Okay. So what I could do to get my panels now, since I'm trying to do a neater drawing, you don't have to ignore the digital tools that we have. You can use them. So I'm going to copy, paste, center, and then shrink this same thing. Right? So putting it right over there. I'm just going to hold down Alt and Shift to kind of set it in like that. It never really works entirely. You still have to adjust things manually a bit, but it's a nice place to start. So I'm going to go, that would be really, really big. I'm going to go right about there. This is going to take a little bit of manual adjustment, but that was a pretty good start anyway. So this is on a different layer at the moment. I'm going to move this line in further and down further. There. This one I don't want it to be so far up. It needs to be all the way down here. It's going to be more like that. Okay, and then I need to erase out all that mess. Let's try again on that line. Okay. And then up here, it never quite reached properly. Something like that. So once I get this close enough, I cannot tell with this stupid cursor which side is erasing or not. Where is it? Oh, that might be on the other layer. I'll just combine them because I don't need them to be separate now. Okay. So we've got some nice panels. Previously, I had the door pull mechanism over here, and then I was also subdividing it a little bit. Let me take a look back at this one. Yeah, I put a big divider across the center of the door. Let's keep doing that, but I'm going to put it higher, like all the way over here. Let's have it all the way over here. We'll go across like this. Like that. Kind of destroyed the purpose for my my cutout, though, unfortunately. But it looks pretty nice when I take a small step back. So I guess that panel could be smaller, and it could just be right here. So we'll treat that as like this operation panel. The tall, thin window, I could move it over to the opposite side, or I could change my mind again. I feel like I'm changing my mind too much. Yeah, I'm changing my mind too much, so I'm going to back up a little bit and move this dividing metal, because it gets rid of the purpose of why I like this design in the first place. So this might happen occasionally. But what do I do with that metal then? So maybe I have to get rid of that idea entirely. Let's see, what if I just draw it across here? You know what, that's fine. Let me just draw it across there. Have one side with a bevel, the other side without. Do that. Okay, that's fine. So now I can have the panel and the tall window like I wanted in the first place. We'll have it do that. And then this one, tall window. So generally trying to observe the same angles that I've established throughout, not change these angles too much, keep things lined up neater. You can see this is still a pretty rough drawing though, right? It's not completely slick and polished or anything like that, and it doesn't have to be. This is a design. Okay. Was someone trying to ask a question just now? Is that what I heard? No? Okay. So let's go straight down through here. And here. Just to get like a little panel detail back there. I'm erasing more and more and more of what we had in that overlay to where it's almost completely gone now. And then I just want to take a look at my previous one. What was my idea for those panels? I don't even really remember, so I'm going to turn to my reference, like this one for instance, and it looks like having like locking mechanism on the door would be a good idea, or having these little I don't know what those are, like finger grip areas where you could do something with those panels, having some little bits of overlapping, whatever they are, like interlocking bits would probably be a good idea. And I can see, like, yeah, once I show my design, it's definitely lacking in some of those. So let's do that. So right here, we'll put little interlocking bit. Let's do that over here as well, like that. And maybe even let's do a larger one right here. But none of this stuff is really changing the design at all. It's just detailing out the idea I've already got, really. Okay. Give this a little bit more presence. Give this one a lot more. So now I'm confident that that's the shape I want. Chopping up this shape, maybe. Let's put a few of these little grip things on here like we had. We'll put them all on the diagonals. Should I separate those panels at all? Probably not. And what about this? This looks like it needs something. Like maybe this one should actually change direction and come across here. And then we'll have it stop and be interrupted into like a little slide or something. Yeah, just to kind of give it a little bit of interest. We'll have something over here too, as if they interlock somehow. For the windows, I haven't really spent very much time on that, but probably just want like a small sill in there. But then potentially, if I had the drawing fidelity right now to do it, we may want a like pattern on like the glass or something. So for that, I'm going to do something real quick just with a different tool for an example. Let's grab the polygon tool. I'm going to set it to pixels. See what we get right now. Oh, it's 3-sided. Okay, I want 6-sided. And yeah, I don't want smooth corners. Let's see what we get now. Something like that. I was hoping it was going to be outlines and not fill. Fill pixels. And what about a shape layer? You still filled? Yeah, you're still filled. Okay, so I got to do something a little bit more tricky then, because I need it to be lines only. So I'm going to draw a hexagon. I'm going to set the layer style to stroke, and we'll leave it black. Then I'm going to change the layer itself to not have any fill, so I get these lines back. Go center. Okay. Then I'm going to just merge that with a blank layer, and now I'm going to transform it. Let's make it thinner like this. Okay. And I'm going to create a pattern like this. I'm going to very carefully move it into place with my arrow keys, and then do it again. And so this is going to be like the window texture. I'm just going to merge this, duplicate it. This is all stuff you can do if you know like the tools of any given program really well. And in Photoshop I do. In other programs, I don't so much, but anything that you can draw once and copy and paste, you could do something like this with. It looks like it's going to be a little bit too big. So now that I've got that much of it, I'm going to shrink it. Let's get it down to the size that I might actually use. So on this window, I might actually use a pattern about that big or so. Oh, I could do this right over here. It's on a different layer. I don't have to worry about that. Okay, so there's my little pattern. I'm going to copy one more to the right just so I can fill up that whole window space and merge, and then copy the whole thing down for a few repetitions. Okay, merge, merge, merge. So here's this big, right, ambient pattern. I may want to just save one over here, right? So I'm going to duplicate my layer and then hide that one. And now this one I'm going to stick right over here, and then just erase away the parts that I don't want. You can see that some of it's drawn a little bit crooked. That's okay. I could just make this a little bit crooked to match. And then I'll just use a selection tool to grab the parts I don't want. Let's use a polygon selection tool. Just delete out those parts I don't need. There we go. So we can, just for an example, do stuff like that to start adding more detail. If you can create a pattern, any pattern that you could create, you can make it repeat and then just paste it over a section. Right now this is still free to turn on and off, and right now I could turn down the opacity just so it's like a little bit less prominent. Or even change the color if I wanted to. I could lock the pixels and then draw over the top of it with, let's just say, white instead of black. It's going to be very hard to see, I think. There we go. I got to press harder. And let's turn the opacity back all the way up so we can see that. There we go. So now it's white instead of black. We could even change like the blending mode. So if I do screen, it's not really going to do very much right now. Okay. But just an example of what you can do. If you're absolutely sure you want to keep it, merge it down with your original. If you're not, then just leave it separate and keep drawing the rest of your stuff. Okay. But yeah, I wouldn't want you to take it much farther than what I've done here. Probably at this point I just need to like put in, whoa, my brush is so huge. I just need to put in like some of those like SciFi serial code numbers somewhere and just call it. So let's say like 0 to dash B up here. For some reason I should probably like try to make it a blocky, and then just like do a little serial code thing down here. They always do this stuff, I don't know why. Maybe do another one over here, and then I never actually detailed out this panel, but I think you guys get the idea. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about like this basic kind of design approach of playing around with basic shapes, getting a few that you like along with details and reference, and then starting to explore finishing them out this way? No? You guys feel completely confident doing this?
So what you just did all counts as one, right?
Yep. Now I didn't do that whole earlier design process just to get this one, but I've got a bunch of others just waiting to be done now. So I started with the wild exploration up here in stage 1. This stage 2, I would detail out each and every one of these probably, and they would end up being a nice version of something finished. But I could also do more than one of these. If I like this concept so much, then I could do a second version of it. So this would be one take on it, but I could do a second just as easily with different details, different windows, and that would count as 2 as well. I could do 3 or 4 of them if I wanted. Based on the numbers that I did in the first place, I think 12 was what the assignment was. If I did 3 of each of these, right, then we're good.
Okay, cool. I thought I had to do like 12 of just one.
Now, if you did that, that would be really thorough explanation or exploration of design, which is great, but there's no reason to commit to something that hard, right? Just do a few variations of your favorite takes, and that's good enough.
All right, thanks.
Cool. All right, you guys. Any other questions? Absolutely. I'm going to stop recording, though, because that's the tutorial part that I think would be useful. Okay?